Listen carefully. Your child is talking to you right now. Not with words, not with sentences, but with silence, with behavior, with emotion. And the truth is, you're answering everyone else in your life, but not the one voice that matters most. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, there is a powerful truth. What is not understood will suffer in silence. So tonight, this is not just a video. This is a moment of awareness. Because by the end of this, you may realize something that changes your child's life forever. 1. Silence is also a language. Your child may be speaking to you right now, and you don't even realize it. Not with words, not with clear sentences you can respond to, but with something quieter, something deeper. Silence. The kind of silence that fills a room but says everything at the same time. You might notice it in small ways. They don't come to you like they used to. They hesitate before answering. Their eyes look away when you try to connect. And you think, they're just tired, or they'll be fine. But beneath that silence, something is waiting to be heard. In the wisdom of Gautama Buddha, silence is never empty. It is full of unspoken thoughts, emotions that don't yet have words, and feelings a child doesn't know how to express. When a child cannot explain their pain, they don't stop feeling it, they just stop trying to share it. And this is where most parents miss the moment. Because we are trained to listen to words, to respond when something is said clearly. But your child is not always capable of that clarity. Sometimes, their silence is the loudest cry they can make. If you only listen for what is spoken, you will miss what matters most. 2. Behavior is a message, not a problem. What if the thing you're trying to fix is actually something you're supposed to understand? When your child becomes angry, talks back, withdraws, or suddenly changes, the instinct is immediate. You want to correct it, stop it, control it, because it feels wrong, disrespectful, concerning. But look deeper. That behavior didn't come from nowhere. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, every reaction has a root. Nothing appears without a cause. And when you only react to what is visible, you ignore what is real. Your child is not trying to make your life difficult. They are trying to express something they don't fully understand themselves. Anger can be confusion. Defiance can be hurt. Distance can be fear. But because it doesn't come out in a calm, clear way, it gets labeled as a problem instead of a message. And the moment you treat it as something to shut down, instead of something to listen to, the message goes deeper inside them. This is where the connection begins to break. Because your child doesn't just need correction, they need to be understood. And sometimes, the behavior you're trying to stop is the only voice they have left. 3. Presence is more powerful than advice. There are moments in your child's life when they don't need your intelligence, they don't need your experience, they don't need your solutions. They just need you. Not the version of you that is rushing, distracted, thinking about work, or holding a phone. Not the version of you that is preparing the next piece of advice before they even finish speaking. But the real you. The one who is fully there, fully present, fully aware. Because your child can feel the difference. They can feel when you're listening just to respond, and when you're listening to understand. And most of the time, what breaks the connection between a parent and a child is not a lack of love. It's a lack of presence. You may be sitting in the same room, but emotionally, you're somewhere else. Your mind is busy. Your attention is divided. And even if your child cannot explain it, they feel it deeply. They feel unseen. In the wisdom of Gautama Buddha, true awareness is the highest form of care. To be fully present with another human being is not a small act, it is a profound one. It tells them, without words, you matter enough for me to pause my world. And for a child, that message is everything. Think about it. When your child comes to you with something small, something that may not seem important to you, how do you respond? Do you brush it off? Do you give quick advice just to move on? Do you half listen while doing something else? Or do you stop, look at them, and truly give them your attention? Because in that moment, you are not just responding to a story, you are shaping how safe they feel coming to you in the future. If they feel ignored in the small moments, they will disappear in the big ones. They will stop sharing, stop opening up, stop trusting that you are the place they can come to. And this doesn't happen suddenly. It happens slowly, quietly, over time, one distracted moment at a time. But here is the truth most people don't realize. Your presence has the power to heal things your words never can. You don't need perfect sentences. You don't need deep advice. You don't need to fix everything. Sometimes, sitting beside your child, listening without interrupting, without judging, without rushing, is more powerful than anything you could say. Because in that silence, they feel accepted. In that attention, they feel valued. In that presence, they feel safe. And when a child feels safe, they begin to open. Not all at once, not perfectly, but slowly, honestly, and deeply. This is how real connection is built. Not through control, not through lectures, but through presence. So the next time your child speaks, pause it, put everything else down, look at them, like they are the only thing that matters in that moment. Because to them, they are hoping they are. 4. Your attention is their emotional oxygen. There is something your child needs from you, more than advice, more than discipline, more than anything you can buy for them. They need your attention. Not the kind you give for a few seconds while doing something else. Not the distracted while your eyes stay on a screen. Not the half listening that says, I'm here, but not really. They need your full attention. Because to a child, attention is not a small thing. It is everything. It is how they measure love. It is how they understand their worth. It is how they decide if they matter or not. You may think love is something they just know, but the truth is, they don't feel what you feel inside. They feel what you show. And what you show is where your attention goes. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, awareness is the foundation of all connection. Where your awareness rests, your life unfolds. And in your child's world, where your attention rests, their identity begins to form. If your attention is always somewhere else, they begin to believe they are not important enough to hold it. It doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in patterns. When they come to you excited, and you say, not now. When they try to talk, and you nod without listening. When they look at you, and you don't look back. These moments seem small to you, but to them, they are everything. Because children don't analyze your intentions. They absorb your behavior, and slowly, quietly, they start to adjust. They stop coming to you as often. They stop sharing as much. They learn to keep things inside, not because they want to, but because they feel they have to, because somewhere inside them, a belief is forming. I am not important enough to be heard. And once that belief takes root, it changes everything. It changes how they see themselves, how they speak, how they connect with others, how they trust. This is how emotional distance begins. Not with one big mistake, but with 1,000 small moments of missed attention. Moments where your child reached out, and you weren't fully there to receive them. And the painful part is, most parents don't even realize it's happening. Because life is busy. You're tired. You have responsibilities. You're trying your best. But your child is not measuring your effort. They are feeling your presence. And presence is not about being physically there. It's about being emotionally available. You can sit next to your child for hours and still feel distant to them. Or you can give them 5 minutes of pure, undivided attention and make them feel deeply seen. That is the power of attention. It is not about quantity. It is about quality. When you truly focus on your child, something shifts. They open up more. They become calmer. They feel safer. Because your attention tells them something powerful. You matter enough for me to pause my world. And that message shapes their entire emotional foundation. Think about the moments that stay with you. Not the busy days, not the routines, but the moments where someone truly saw you, truly listened, truly cared. That is what your child is looking for. Not perfection, connection. And connection is built moment by moment, through attention. In Buddhist understanding, the mind is always moving, always pulled in different directions, but awareness brings it back to the present. And the present is the only place where real connection exists. Your child does not need a perfect parent. They need a present one. Someone who notices the small changes, the quiet moods, the subtle signals. Someone who sees beyond behavior and into feeling. Because your child is always communicating, not just with words, but with energy, emotion, and presence. And if your attention is elsewhere, you will miss it. You will miss the signs. You will miss the moments. You will miss the chance to understand them while they are still trying to be understood. But when you give your attention fully, you create something rare. A space where your child feels safe to be themselves. A space where they don't have to hide, don't have to pretend, don't have to struggle alone. And in that space, they grow, not just into better behavior, but into a stronger, more secure human being. Because attention is not just something you give, it is something that builds them. It becomes their confidence, their self-worth, their inner voice. And one day, the way you paid attention to them becomes the way they treat themselves. So ask yourself honestly, where is your attention going? And who is quietly waiting for it? Because your child is not asking for everything. They are just asking for you, fully, even if only for a moment. And sometimes, that one moment of true attention is enough to change everything. 5. Pain ignored becomes distance. There is a kind of pain your child carries that you may never see, not because it isn't there, but because it was never given the space to be expressed. At first, it is small, a moment when they feel hurt and don't know how to explain it, a time when they feel misunderstood, but stay quiet, a feeling they try to share, but sense you are too busy, too distracted, or too quick to correct. So they stop, not all at once, but slowly. And this is how it begins. Because when pain is not acknowledged, it does not disappear. It stays. It settles inside them. It becomes quieter, but heavier. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, suffering that is not understood does not end. It deepens. What is ignored does not heal. It transforms. And in a child, that transformation is subtle but powerful. What begins as a simple feeling becomes a habit of silence. What begins as a moment of hurt becomes a belief that says, my feelings don't matter. No one really understands me. It's better to keep things inside. And once that belief forms, it changes how they relate to you. They stop coming to you with their problems. They stop sharing what's really going on inside. They start creating a world that you are no longer fully part of, not because they don't love you, but because they don't feel safe being open anymore. And this is where distance begins. Not with conflict, not with rebellion, but with silence. A quiet space that slowly grows between you and your child. A space filled with things unsaid, feelings unshared, moments that passed without connection. And the hardest part is, you may not notice it right away, because everything on the surface can still look normal. They still go to school. They still respond when you speak. They still follow routines. But inside, something has shifted. They have learned to carry their pain alone. And the longer this continues, the deeper that distance becomes. Because pain that is carried alone changes a person. It makes them more guarded, more distant, less willing to trust. And one day, you may look at your child and feel like you don't really know them anymore. Not because they changed suddenly, but because there were moments, long ago, when they needed to be heard, and those moments were missed. This is the truth most people don't want to face. Ignoring a child's pain does not protect them. It isolates them. It teaches them that their inner world is something they must handle alone, and no child is meant to grow that way. They are meant to be guided, understood, supported. They are meant to feel that their emotions are safe to express, not something to hide. But when that safety is missing, they adapt. They become quieter, stronger on the outside, but more alone on the inside. And that loneliness is what creates emotional distance. Distance that cannot be fixed with rules or advice or control, because the root was never addressed. The pain was never seen. But here is something important to understand. Distance is not permanent. It is a result. And anything that is created can be changed. But it requires awareness. It requires you to see what is not being said, to notice what has been ignored, to feel what your child may not have the words to express, because sometimes your child is not asking for solutions. They are asking to be seen in their pain, to have someone sit with them without rushing to fix it, to have someone say, without words, "I see you, and you don't have to carry this alone." And when that happens, something powerful shifts. The walls begin to soften. The silence begins to open. The distance begins to close. Not instantly, but slowly, naturally, honestly. Because connection is not rebuilt through force. It is rebuilt through understanding, through presence, through patience, through consistent care. So the next time your child seems distant, don't just look at their behavior. Look deeper. Ask yourself, what might they be feeling that they haven't been able to share? What pain might have been missed? What moment might have needed more attention? Because behind every distant child, there is a story that was never fully heard, and you still have the chance to listen. Before that distance becomes a habit, before silence becomes their comfort, before the space between you feels too wide to cross. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware, right now. Because the pain you choose to see today is the distance you prevent tomorrow. 6. Listening without judgment heals faster. There is a moment, small, almost invisible, where your child decides whether to open up to you or close down. It happens when they begin to speak, not when they finish, not after the conversation, but in the very first seconds of sharing something real. They are watching you, not your words, but your reaction, your face, your tone, your energy. And in that moment, they are asking one silent question. Is it safe for me to be honest here? If the answer feels like no, even slightly, they begin to pull back. They change their words. They hide parts of the truth. They soften what they really feel. Or worse, they stop speaking altogether. Because for a child, judgment does not feel like guidance. It feels like rejection. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, true listening is not about hearing words. It is about creating space. A space free from fear, free from correction, free from the need to defend. A space where truth can exist without punishment. But most people don't listen this way. They listen to respond, to correct, to fix, to teach. And while those intentions may come from love, the impact can be very different. Because when your child feels judged, they don't feel guided. They feel misunderstood. Think about how often this happens. Your child says something emotional, something imperfect, something raw, and before they even finish, you interrupt. You correct them. You tell them they're wrong. You compare them. You minimize what they're feeling. You may believe you are helping, but what they feel is this: my truth is not welcome here. And once that feeling settles, they begin to protect themselves. They become careful with their words. They filter what they say. They avoid certain topics altogether. And slowly, the real conversations disappear. Not because your child has nothing to say, but because they have learned it is not safe to say it. This is how emotional walls are built. Not from one big moment, but from repeated small experiences of not being fully accepted. And the painful truth is, you may never know what they stopped sharing. The fears they hid, the struggles they carried alone, the thoughts they kept inside, all because they didn't feel safe enough to be honest. But here is what most people don't realize. Listening without judgment is not passive. It is one of the most powerful actions you can take. Because when your child feels truly heard, something inside them relaxes. The pressure to hide disappears. The fear of being wrong fades. The need to defend themselves goes away. And in that space, healing begins. Not because you fixed anything, but because you allowed them to be real, and that is what they need most. Not perfection, not constant correction, but acceptance. To be seen, even when they are confused. To be heard, even when they are not making sense. To be understood, even when they are struggling. Because growth does not happen in judgment. It happens in safety, in understanding, in connection. When you listen without judgment, you are not saying everything they do is right. You are saying something deeper. You are allowed to be human here. And that message changes everything. It creates trust, the kind of trust that makes your child come back to you again and again. Not just when things are easy, but when things are difficult, when they are confused, when they make mistakes, when they feel lost. Because they know you are not just someone who listens, you are someone who understands. And understanding is what keeps the connection alive. But this kind of listening requires something difficult. It requires you to pause your own reactions, to notice your urge to interrupt, to control the need to correct, to let go of the habit of turning every conversation into a lesson. It requires patience, because sometimes your child will not express things clearly. They may speak in fragments, in emotions, in confusion, and your role is not to fix that immediately. Your role is to stay present long enough for them to find their way, because when you give them that space, they begin to understand themselves. They begin to process what they feel. They begin to grow from within. And that kind of growth is far more powerful than anything you can force from the outside. So the next time your child speaks, notice your response. Do you rush to correct? Do you interrupt? Do you judge? Or do you pause, breathe, and simply listen? Because that moment is shaping everything. It is shaping how safe they feel with you, how open they are with you, how much of themselves they are willing to share. And over time, it becomes the foundation of your relationship. A relationship built on fear, or a relationship built on trust. The choice is not made in big moments. It is made in small conversations, in the way you listen, in the space you create, in the judgment you choose to release. Because your child is not asking for perfection. They are asking for a place where they can be real, without fear. And when you give them that, you don't just hear their words, you reach their heart. 7. Small moments build deep trust. Trust is not built in one big conversation. It is not created in a single emotional talk or one powerful moment where everything feels perfect. Trust is built in the smallest moments, the ones most people ignore. A quick glance, a simple response, a quiet interaction that seems too small to matter. But to your child, these moments are everything, because they are watching you constantly. Not in an obvious way, not consciously analyzing everything you do, but absorbing it, feeling it, learning from it. And in each of these small moments, they are forming one silent conclusion. Can I trust this person with my world? You may think trust comes later, when they are older, when serious conversations happen. But the truth is, trust is being built right now, in the ordinary. When they tell you something small, and you truly listen. When they ask for your attention, and you give it without irritation. When they make a mistake, and you respond with understanding instead of anger. These moments may feel insignificant to you, but to your child, they are defining. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, every action, no matter how small, carries weight. Every moment plants a seed. And over time, those seeds grow into patterns, into beliefs, into relationships. This is how trust is formed. Not suddenly, but slowly, through repetition. When your child experiences you as calm, present, and understanding, again and again, they begin to feel safe. And safety is the foundation of trust. But when those small moments are filled with impatience, distraction, or dismissal, a different pattern forms. They begin to feel unsure. They hesitate before speaking. They question whether it's worth sharing. They start to hold parts of themselves back. And this doesn't happen in a dramatic way. It happens quietly, one small moment at a time. This is why small interactions matter so much. Because your child is not just reacting to what you say, they are building an image of who you are. Are you someone who listens, or someone who interrupts? Are you someone who understands, or someone who reacts? Are you someone who is available, or someone who is always too busy? And based on that image, they decide how much of themselves they can bring to you. Think about the times your child approaches you with something simple, something that may seem unimportant, a random thought, a small story, a question that doesn't feel urgent. These are not random moments. They are invitations to connect. And how you respond in these moments matters more than you realize. If you dismiss them, you teach your child that connection is not important. If you rush them, you teach them their thoughts are not worth time. If you ignore them, you teach them to stop reaching out. But if you pause, listen, and engage, you teach them something powerful, that what you feel and think matters. And that lesson becomes trust. Because trust is not built on big promises. It is built on consistent experiences. Experiences where your child feels seen, heard, respected, over and over again. And once that trust is built, something incredible happens. Your child begins to open up more, not because you ask them to, but because they want to. They feel safe enough to share deeper things. They feel confident enough to express themselves honestly. They feel connected enough to let you into their inner world. And this is where real relationships are formed. Not through control, not through authority, but through trust. However, trust can also be broken in small moments. Just as it is built quietly, it can be lost quietly. A harsh response, a moment of humiliation, a time when they felt exposed or misunderstood. These moments stay, and if they happen repeatedly, they begin to outweigh the positive ones. This is why awareness is so important, because the moments that feel small to you may be very big to them. A careless word, a dismissive tone, a lack of attention. These things don't disappear. They accumulate. And over time, they shape how your child sees you, as a safe place or a distant one. But here is the truth that changes everything. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to respond perfectly every time. You don't need to get everything right. What matters is consistency, showing up again and again with care, with patience, with attention, repairing moments when you get it wrong, apologizing when needed, being willing to reconnect. Because trust is not about never making mistakes. It is about what you do after them. When your child sees that you are willing to understand, to reflect, to come back with sincerity, it strengthens the bond. It shows them that the relationship matters, and that matters more than perfection ever could. So the next time your child comes to you, pause it. Recognize the moment, even if it feels small, even if it feels ordinary. Because in that moment, you are not just having a conversation, you are building trust, or breaking it. And over time, those small moments become everything. They become the reason your child comes to you, or the reason they stop. They become the foundation of your connection, or the distance between you. So choose carefully, not in big dramatic ways, but in the quiet everyday moments, where trust is truly built. Because one day, your child will decide who they can trust with their deepest thoughts. And that decision will not come from one big memory. It will come from thousands of small ones. Moments where they felt safe with you. Moments where they felt heard. Moments where they felt that you were truly there. And if those moments were enough, they will come to you, not because they have to, but because they trust you. And that is everything. 8. Emotional safety is everything. There is one invisible condition that decides whether your child opens their heart to you or slowly closes it. It is not how much you provide, not how much you teach, not even how much you love them. It is how safe they feel, emotionally. Because a child does not share their truth where they feel fear. They share it where they feel safe. And emotional safety is not something you announce. It is something they feel. In your tone, in your reactions, in the way you respond when things are not perfect. Every time your child comes to you with something vulnerable, something confusing, something they are unsure about, they are taking a risk, a quiet, internal risk. They are asking, what will happen if I show this part of myself? Will they be judged, corrected immediately, dismissed, or misunderstood? Or will they be accepted? In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, Fear closes the mind, and safety allows it to open. And for a child, emotional safety is the difference between hiding and expressing. If your child feels even a small amount of fear in being honest with you, they will begin to protect themselves. Not in obvious ways, but quietly. They will choose their words carefully. They will hide certain emotions. They will avoid certain topics. And over time, they will create a version of themselves that feels acceptable instead of being real. This is how disconnection begins. Not with rebellion, but with adaptation. They adapt to your reactions. If your response is anger, they become quiet. If your response is judgment, they become careful. If your response is dismissal, they stop trying. And slowly, the real version of your child starts to disappear from your view. Not because it's gone, but because it no longer feels safe to be seen. This is the silent cost of emotional insecurity. A child who is physically present, but emotionally distant. A child who behaves, but does not express. A child who listens, but does not feel understood. And the most difficult part is, everything can look fine on the outside. There may be no conflict, no obvious problem, but inside, there is distance. Because emotional safety was never fully established, but when emotional safety exists, everything changes. Your child begins to open, not because you force them, but because they want to. They feel free to express their thoughts, even when they are messy. They feel comfortable sharing their emotions, even when they are intense. They feel secure being themselves, without fear of being rejected. And this is where real connection happens. Not in control, not in perfection, but in safety. So what creates emotional safety? It is not one action. It is a pattern. A pattern of calm responses, even when things go wrong. A pattern of listening, without rushing to correct. A pattern of accepting emotions, without labeling them as wrong. It is the way you respond when your child makes a mistake. Do you react with anger or with understanding? Do you focus on punishment or on what they are feeling? Because in that moment, you are not just addressing behavior. You are teaching them something deeper. Is it safe to be imperfect here? And if the answer is yes, they will grow, not out of fear, but out of trust. But if the answer is no, they will hide. They will try to avoid mistakes, not by improving, but by concealing. And that is not growth. That is fear. In Buddhist understanding, suffering increases when we resist what is real. And for a child, their emotions are real, even if they are not logical, even if they are not convenient. If those emotions are rejected, the child learns to reject parts of themselves, and that creates inner conflict. But when those emotions are accepted, even without agreement, the child learns something powerful. My feelings are valid, and I am still accepted. That is emotional safety, and it shapes everything. It shapes how your child sees themselves, how they handle stress, how they build relationships, how they trust others. Because the way you respond to their emotions becomes the way they respond to their own. If you meet them with calm, they learn calm. If you meet them with understanding, they learn understanding. If you meet them with patience, they learn patience. But if you meet them with fear, they learn to fear themselves. And that is where the deepest struggles begin. So the next time your child shows emotion, pause it. Look beyond the surface. It is not just anger, not just sadness, not just frustration. It is a moment of vulnerability, a moment where they are showing you something real, and your response will decide whether they show it again or hide it next time. Because emotional safety is not built through words. It is built through consistent experience, through moments where your child feels, I can be myself here, and I will still be accepted. And when that feeling becomes strong enough, something powerful happens. Your child stops pretending, stops hiding, stops filtering. They become real, open, honest, connected. And that is where the deepest relationship begins. Not one based on control, but one based on trust, safety, and understanding. So remember this, your child does not need a perfect environment. They need a safe one, a place where they can feel without fear. express without hesitation, and be who they are without losing your acceptance. Because when emotional safety is present, everything else becomes possible. Growth, connection, trust. But without it, even love can feel distant, and your child may slowly learn to keep their world to themselves. So ask yourself, when your child shows you who they are, do they feel safe enough to stay open? Or are they learning to hide? 9. They learn more from your energy than your words. There is something your child is learning from you every single day, even when you are not speaking, even when you are silent, even when you think nothing important is happening. They are learning from your energy, not just your words, because words can say anything. You can say, "I'm fine." You can say, "I love you." You can say, "Everything is okay." But your energy, your tone, your presence, your emotional state, that tells the truth. And your child feels that truth instantly. They don't need to analyze it. They don't need to understand it logically. They feel it. If you are tense, they feel tension. If you are distant, they feel distance. If you are overwhelmed, they feel unease, even if you never say a word. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, the mind and its state shape reality. And for a child, your inner state becomes part of their reality, because they are not just listening to what you say. They are absorbing who you are in that moment. And this is where many people misunderstand connection. They believe that as long as they say the right things, everything will be fine. But children are not convinced by words alone. They trust what they feel. You can tell your child, "You can talk to me anytime." But if your energy feels impatient, distracted, or closed, they will not believe it. Not consciously, but emotionally. And emotion is what guides their behavior. So they hesitate. They hold back. They choose silence, not because of your words, but because of how your presence feels. This is why energy matters so deeply, because it communicates what words cannot. It reveals your true state, and your child is constantly responding to that state. Think about the moments when you are stressed. Your mind is busy. Your body is tense. Your responses are shorter, quicker, less patient. You may still be present physically, but emotionally, something is off, and your child feels it. They may not understand it, but they adjust to it. They become quieter, more careful, less expressive, not because they want to, but because they are responding to your energy. This is how emotional environments are created, not through rules, not through instructions, but through the consistent emotional tone you bring into your child's life. If that tone is calm, they feel safe. If that tone is chaotic, they feel uncertain. If that tone is distant, they feel alone. And over time, they begin to internalize that tone. It becomes part of how they experience the world. Because children don't just live around your energy. They absorb it. They mirror it. They become shaped by it. This is why your emotional awareness matters more than perfect communication. You can say everything right, but if your energy feels wrong, the message is lost. But when your energy is grounded, calm, and present, even simple words carry power. Even silence feels safe. In Buddhist understanding, awareness of the inner state is essential because what is happening within you is always affecting what is happening around you. And for your child, your inner world becomes part of their outer world. If you carry stress constantly, they grow up feeling that stress. If you carry calm awareness, they grow up learning calm awareness. This is not something you teach directly. It is something you transmit, without effort, without intention, just by being who you are in each moment. So the question is not only, what are you saying to your child? The deeper question is, what are they feeling from you? Are they feeling safety? Are they feeling patience? Are they feeling acceptance? Or are they feeling pressure, distance, unspoken tension? Because those feelings shape everything. They shape how your child responds to you, how they express themselves, how they see relationships, and eventually, how they see themselves. If they grow up in an environment where energy is unstable, they become uncertain. If they grow up in an environment where energy is calm, they become grounded. This is how emotional patterns are formed, quietly, consistently, without words. So what can you do? Not perfection, not forcing yourself to always feel a certain way, but awareness, noticing your state, recognizing when you are overwhelmed, distracted, or disconnected, and gently returning to presence. Because even a small shift in your energy creates a big shift in your child's experience. When you slow down, they relax. When you soften your tone, they open. When you become present, they feel safe. It does not require long conversations. It requires real presence. Because your child is not just hearing you, they are feeling you. And that feeling becomes their reality. So the next time you are with your child, pause for a moment, not to say something perfect, but to become aware of your breath, of your body, of your state, and ask yourself, what am I bringing into this moment? Because whatever that is, your child is receiving it, and over time, becoming shaped by it. This is the quiet power you carry, not just in your words, but in your presence, in your energy, in who you are when you are with them. And that is what they will remember the most. 10. Unheard children become silent adults. There is a moment in a child's life, quiet, almost invisible, where they begin to decide something that will stay with them for years. Not consciously, not with clear words, but deeply. They begin to decide whether their voice matters. And that decision is not made in one big event. It is shaped slowly through repeated experiences. Moments when they tried to speak, but were interrupted. Moments when they expressed something real, but were dismissed. Moments when they opened up, but felt misunderstood, judged, or corrected too quickly. At first, they try again. They come back. They attempt to explain. They look for another chance to be heard. Because every child wants to be understood. It is a natural need. But when those attempts continue to meet the same response, something begins to change. Not suddenly, but gradually. They begin to speak less. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they are learning something powerful. No one is really listening. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, repeated experiences shape the mind. What we experience again and again becomes what we believe. And for a child, belief is not formed through logic, but through feeling. If they feel unheard repeatedly, they begin to believe their voice does not matter. And once that belief takes root, it affects everything. They hesitate before speaking. They doubt their thoughts. They question whether it's worth expressing themselves at all. And slowly, their voice becomes quieter, not only with others, but within themselves. Because when a child learns that their voice is not valued, they stop trusting it. They begin to disconnect from their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own truth. And this is where the deepest silence begins. A silence that is not peaceful, but heavy. A silence filled with unspoken ideas, unexpressed emotions, and suppressed identity. And the most difficult part is, this silence often continues into adulthood. The child grows up. They become older, more independent, more capable, but something inside them remains unchanged. They struggle to express themselves. They hold back in conversations. They fear being judged, rejected, or ignored. Not because they are weak, but because they were conditioned to believe that speaking up does not lead to understanding. So they stay quiet, even when they have something important to say, even when they are hurting, even when they need help. And this silence shapes their entire life. It affects their relationships. They struggle to communicate deeply. They avoid difficult conversations. They keep parts of themselves hidden. It affects their confidence. They second-guess their opinions. They doubt their voice. They hesitate to take space. It affects their identity. They lose touch with what they truly feel. They become disconnected from their inner world. They adapt to what is expected instead of expressing who they are. And all of this often begins in childhood, in moments that seemed small at the time, moments where they were not fully heard, moments where their voice was not fully received, moments where they felt invisible, even while speaking. This is the long-term cost of being unheard. It does not just affect the present, it shapes the future. But here is the truth that many people overlook. Children do not need perfect responses. They do not need you to understand everything immediately. They need to feel that their voice matters, that what they say is worth hearing, that their thoughts and feelings are not something to be ignored. Because when a child feels heard, something powerful happens. They become more confident, more expressive, more connected to themselves. They trust their voice. They learn that what they feel has value, and that belief carries into adulthood. It becomes the foundation of how they communicate, how they connect, how they live. This is why listening is not a small act. It is not just about the moment. It is about shaping the future. Every time you truly listen to your child, you are reinforcing something important. Your voice matters, and every time that message is repeated, it becomes stronger. It becomes part of who they are. But if the opposite message is repeated, you are not being heard. That also becomes part of who they are. And changing that later is much harder. Not impossible, but harder. Because beliefs formed early tend to stay, unless something breaks the pattern, unless someone shows them a different experience. And that someone can be you, right now, because it is never too late to change the way you listen. It is never too late to create space. It is never too late to show your child that their voice is welcome, that it matters, that it is safe to express. Even if the past was different, the present can be new. You can choose to pause, to give them time, to let them finish, to respond with curiosity instead of correction, to create a moment where they feel fully received. And in that moment, you begin to reverse the pattern. You begin to rebuild trust. You begin to show them something they may not have felt before. What you say matters to me. And over time, that message begins to heal what was once missing. The silence begins to soften. The hesitation begins to fade. The voice begins to return, not all at once, but gradually, naturally, as trust is rebuilt, because the voice was never gone. It was just waiting for a place where it could be heard. So the next time your child speaks, remember this: you are not just responding to a sentence. You are shaping a belief that will stay with them long after this moment is gone, a belief that will influence how they speak, how they connect, how they see themselves. And the question is simple: what will that belief be? That their voice does not matter, or that it does? Because one leads to silence, and the other leads to a life where they feel free to be heard. And that difference begins with how you listen. Right now. 11. Compassion is stronger than control. There are two ways to guide a child. You can control them, or you can understand them. At first, control feels easier. It is faster, more direct, more immediate. You set rules. You raise your voice. You demand obedience. And for a moment, it works. Your child listens. They stop the behavior. They follow the instruction. But something deeper is happening beneath the surface. Something you cannot see right away. Because control may change behavior, but it does not heal what caused it. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, force does not create understanding. It creates resistance. And when applied repeatedly, that resistance does not always appear outwardly. Sometimes, it turns inward. Your child may obey you, but inside, they begin to close. They begin to feel fear instead of trust, pressure instead of safety, distance instead of connection. And over time, they stop expressing what they really feel. Not because they don't have emotions, but because they have learned those emotions are not welcome. This is the hidden cost of control. It teaches compliance, but it weakens connection. It creates obedience, but it reduces openness. And eventually, it replaces trust with fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of speaking honestly, fear of being misunderstood or punished. And a child who feels fear will not grow freely. They will adapt. They will learn to avoid consequences, not to understand themselves. They will behave correctly on the outside, while struggling silently on the inside. But compassion works differently. It takes more patience, more awareness, more presence, because compassion does not react immediately. It poses. It looks deeper. It asks, what is really happening here? When your child acts out, compassion does not rush to punish. It seeks to understand. What are they feeling? What are they trying to express? What is beneath this behavior? Because every action has a cause. And when you address the cause, the behavior begins to change naturally, not out of fear, but out of understanding. This is the power of compassion. It does not just correct the surface, it reaches the root. It helps your child feel seen, even when they are at their worst. And that is when they need you the most. Not when they are calm, not when they are behaving perfectly, but when they are struggling, when they are confused, when they are overwhelmed. Because in those moments, they are not just acting out, they are asking for help, not with words, but with behavior. And your response will teach them something lasting. If you respond with control, they learn to hide. If you respond with compassion, they learn to trust. They learn that mistakes are not something to fear, but something to understand. They learn that emotions are not something to suppress, but something to process. They learn that they are not alone, even when they are struggling. And this changes everything, because a child who feels understood does not need to rebel. They do not need to fight for attention. They do not need to express themselves through extreme behavior. They feel safe enough to be honest, and honesty is the foundation of real growth. But compassion is not weakness. It is not allowing everything. It is not ignoring boundaries. Compassion still guides. It still sets limits, but it does so with understanding, not force. It says, I see what you're feeling, and I'm here with you, instead of, stop this now, or face the consequences. And that difference is everything. Because one approach creates fear, the other creates connection. And connection is what allows guidance to be received. When your child feels connected to you, they listen differently. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Because they trust you. Because they feel you are on their side. And when they feel that, your words carry weight. Your guidance matters. Your presence becomes something they rely on. This is how influence is built. Not through control, but through connection, through consistency, through compassion. But this requires something difficult. It requires you to manage your own reactions, to pause when you feel frustrated, to breathe when you feel overwhelmed, to respond instead of react. Because your child is not just learning from what you say, they are learning from how you handle difficult moments. If you lose control, they learn that control is lost under pressure. If you stay calm, they learn calmness. If you respond with compassion, they learn compassion. And these lessons stay with them long after childhood. They become the way they treat others, the way they handle conflict, the way they respond to themselves. Because the way you guide them becomes the way they guide their own mind. So the next time your child does something difficult, pause. Look beyond the behavior. See the emotion. See the confusion. See the human experience behind it. And choose your response carefully. Not just for the moment, but for the long-term impact. Because control may give you immediate results, but compassion builds lasting connection. And in the end, it is not control that shapes a strong, secure child. It is understanding. It is patience. It is compassion. Because a child who feels understood does not just behave better, they become better, stronger, more aware, more connected. Not because they were forced to be, but because they were guided with care. And that is a strength that lasts a lifetime. 12. Your child is not you. There is a quiet mistake many parents make without ever realizing it. They begin to see their child as an extension of themselves. Their expectations become the child's path. Their past becomes the child's direction. Their unfulfilled dreams become the child's silent burden. And it doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from love, from wanting the best, from wanting to protect, from wanting to guide them toward what you believe is right. But beneath that intention, something important can be lost. Your child's individuality. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, attachment is the root of suffering. And one of the deepest attachments a parent can have is the idea of who their child should become. An image, a vision, a version of the future that feels safe, successful, acceptable. But your child is not that image. They are not your expectations. They are not your past experiences. They are not your unfinished story. They are their own, with their own thoughts, their own emotions, their own path that may not look like yours at all. And when this truth is not fully accepted, pressure begins to form, not always spoken, but deeply felt. Your child begins to sense what is expected of them. What will make you proud? What will disappoint you? What will gain approval or lose it? And slowly, they begin to adjust, not to discover who they are, but to become what is accepted. They hide certain interests. They suppress certain feelings. They move away from what feels natural toward what feels required. And this is where something important is lost: authenticity. Because a child who feels they must become someone else begins to disconnect from who they truly are. And that disconnection creates confusion. They may succeed externally. They may follow the path you set, but inside, there is a quiet tension, a feeling that something is not fully aligned, because they are living a life shaped by expectation, not by understanding. This is the hidden weight of projection. When your desires become their direction, without space for their own. But when you release that attachment, something powerful happens. You begin to see your child clearly, not as who you think they should be, but as who they already are. You begin to notice their natural strengths, their unique way of thinking, their individual personality, and instead of shaping them into something, you begin to support what is already present. This is true guidance, not control, not direction forced from the outside, but awareness of what is emerging from within them. Because every child has their own nature, their own pace, their own way of understanding the world. And when that nature is supported, they grow with confidence. They feel accepted. They feel free to explore who they are. But when that nature is suppressed, they grow with doubt. They question themselves. They seek approval instead of truth. They become disconnected from their own voice. And that disconnection can follow them for years into adulthood, where they may struggle to know what they truly want, what they truly feel, what path truly belongs to them. All because, early on, they learn to follow expectations instead of discovering themselves. But here is the truth that changes everything. Your role is not to create your child's path. It is to walk beside them as they discover it, to guide without forcing, to support without controlling, to encourage without shaping them into something they are not. Because when a child feels accepted for who they are, they become stronger, more confident, more secure, more connected to themselves. And from that place, they can grow in a way that is real, not artificial, not forced, but authentic. In Buddhist understanding, letting go does not mean giving up. It means releasing control, so something natural can unfold. And your child is something that needs to unfold, not be molded into a fixed shape, because their life is not yours to live. Their journey is not yours to design, and their identity is not yours to define. They are not here to complete your story. They are here to live their own. And when you truly understand this, your relationship with them changes. You listen differently. You observe more carefully. You respond with curiosity instead of expectation. You begin to ask, what are they showing me about who they are? Instead of, how can I make them what I want them to be? And in that shift, connection deepens because your child feels it. They feel the difference between being shaped and being understood, between being controlled and being supported, between being judged and being accepted. And when they feel accepted, they open, they trust, they grow, not into your vision, but into their own potential. And that potential is often greater than anything you could have imagined, because it comes from authenticity, from alignment, from being fully connected to who they are. So the next time you feel the urge to push them toward a certain path, to expect them to become a certain version, pause. Ask yourself, am I guiding them or shaping them into me? Because the difference matters. One creates pressure, the other creates freedom. And your child does not need to become you to be enough. They already are. They just need the space to discover it and the support to believe in it. Because when a child is allowed to be themselves fully, without fear of losing your acceptance, they don't just grow, they become. And that becoming is something no control could ever create. Only understanding can. 13. Awareness changes everything. Most parents don't ignore their child on purpose. They don't wake up thinking, "Today I will miss what my child needs." They don't choose disconnection intentionally. It happens quietly, through distraction, through routine, through the constant noise of life. And before they realize it, they are physically present, but emotionally distant. They are there, but not truly seeing, not truly hearing, not truly understanding what is happening beneath the surface. And this is where the real problem begins. Not in lack of love, but in lack of awareness. Because love without awareness misses the moment. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, awareness is the beginning of all transformation. Without it, nothing changes. With it, everything becomes possible. And in your relationship with your child, awareness is the difference between reacting and understanding. Think about how many moments pass each day. Small interactions, brief conversations, subtle changes in your child's behavior, a shift in their tone, a silence where there used to be energy, a hesitation where there used to be openness. These are not random, they are signals. But if you are not aware, you will miss them. Not because you don't care, but because your attention is somewhere else, on your responsibilities, on your stress, on everything that feels urgent. And while you are focused there, your child is quietly changing, adapting, adjusting to what they feel from you. And the most dangerous part is, this happens slowly, so slowly that it feels normal. You don't notice the distance growing. You don't notice the silence increasing. You don't notice the connection fading. Until one day, it feels different. And you don't know why. This is the cost of unconscious living. When you move through moments without truly being present, you lose the chance to respond to what matters. But awareness brings you back. It brings you into the moment. It allows you to see what is actually happening, not just what is visible. When you are aware, you notice the small things. You notice when your child is quieter than usual. You notice when their energy feels off. You notice when they are trying to say something, but holding back. And in those moments, you have a choice: to ignore it, or to lean in, to continue as usual, or to pause and connect. Because awareness creates space. Space to respond differently. Space to break patterns. Space to choose connection over habit. Without awareness, you react automatically. You respond the way you always have. Quickly, without thinking, without seeing the deeper need. But with awareness, you slow down. You observe. You ask yourself, what is really happening here? And that question changes everything. Because it moves you from surface to depth, from reaction to understanding, from distance to connection. Awareness is not something complicated. It is simple, but not easy. It requires you to be present, even when your mind wants to drift. It requires you to notice, even when life feels busy. It requires you to pause, even when everything feels urgent. Because the truth is, most of what matters with your child does not come loudly. It comes quietly, in subtle ways, in moments that can be easily overlooked. And if you are not aware, you will miss them. You will miss the chance to understand what your child is going through. You will miss the chance to support them when they need it most. You will miss the chance to connect before distance begins to grow. But when awareness is present, those moments become visible. They become opportunities. Opportunities to listen, to understand, to respond with care. And over time, those small moments of awareness create something powerful, a deeper connection, because your child feels it. They feel that you are paying attention, that you are noticing, that you are present. And that feeling builds trust. It tells them, I matter enough to be seen. And that message is everything. But awareness is not just about noticing your child. It is also about noticing yourself, your reactions, your emotions, your patterns. Because sometimes the barrier to connection is not your child. It is your own state, your stress, your frustration, your habits of responding without thinking and without awareness. Those patterns continue. They repeat. They shape your relationship in ways you may not even realize. But when you become aware of yourself, you gain control. Not control over your child, but control over your response. You begin to notice when you are about to react harshly, and you pause. You notice when you are distracted, and you return to the moment. You notice when you are not fully listening, and you choose to focus. And in those small shifts, everything changes. Because your response changes, and your response shapes your child's experience, shapes how safe they feel, how open they are, how connected they become. This is the quiet power of awareness. It does not force change. It allows it naturally, gently, moment by moment. So the next time you are with your child, pause, not to say something perfect, not to fix anything, but simply to notice. Notice their presence. Notice their energy. Notice what is happening in that moment. And also notice yourself, where your mind is, what you are feeling, how you are responding. Because in that awareness, you create space. Space for connection. Space for understanding. Space for something real to happen. And over time, that awareness becomes a habit, a way of being, a way of relating to your child, with intention, with care, with presence. And that is what changes everything. Not one big moment, not one perfect conversation, but a continuous state of awareness that allows you to truly see your child as they are. And when a child feels truly seen, they don't have to fight for attention. They don't have to hide. They don't have to struggle alone. They feel connected. And that connection is what they have been quietly asking for all along. 14. Love must be felt, not assumed. You may love your child more than anything in this world. Deeply, silently, unconditionally. You may carry that love in your heart every single day, in everything you do, in every sacrifice you make. But there is a truth many parents never stop to consider. Your child cannot feel what you do not express. Love, when kept inside, can feel invisible. And what is invisible can feel absent. In the teachings of Gautama Buddha, intention alone is not enough. What is inside must be brought into awareness, into action, into the present moment, because only then can it be experienced. And for a child, love is not something they assume. It is something they feel or don't feel based on what is shown. You may believe they know you love them because of everything you do, the way you provide, the way you protect, the way you stay committed to their well-being. But your child does not measure love the same way you do. They don't measure it through responsibility. They measure it through connection, through moments, through how they feel when they are with you. Do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? Do they feel valued in a real emotional way? Or do they feel like they are just part of your routine, something you care about but don't truly connect with? This is the difference between love that exists and love that is felt. Because love that is not expressed can be misunderstood. A child may look at your silence and interpret it as distance. They may look at your busyness and feel unimportant. They may look at your lack of emotional presence and believe something is missing. Not because your love is not real, but because it is not reaching them. And when love is not felt, doubt begins to grow. Not immediately, but slowly, quietly. A question begins to form inside them. Am I truly important? Do I really matter? Or am I just expected to exist here? And that question shapes everything. It shapes how they see themselves, how they relate to others, how they understand what love is. Because a child learns love, not from what you feel, but from what they experience. If they experience warmth, they understand love as safe. If they experience distance, they understand love as uncertain. If they experience inconsistency, they understand love as unpredictable. And these patterns follow them into their future relationships, into how they give love, into how they receive it. This is why expression matters so deeply, because love that is felt creates security. It creates a sense of belonging, a deep internal knowing. I am valued just as I am. But love that is only assumed leaves gaps that a child tries to fill on their own, sometimes through seeking attention, sometimes through withdrawing, sometimes through trying to prove their worth, all because they are trying to feel something that was never clearly given. But expressing love is not about grand gestures. It is not about perfection. It is about consistency. In the small moments, a kind tone, a moment of eye contact, a genuine interest in what they are saying, a simple question asked with care. These things may seem small, but they carry meaning. They carry emotion. They carry the message, "You matter to me right now." And that message builds something powerful. It builds emotional security. Because your child does not need to guess how you feel. They experience it clearly, directly, honestly. And when they feel that love consistently, they relax, they open, they become more confident in themselves because they are not questioning their place in your life. They know it. But when love is not expressed, they remain uncertain. Even if everything else seems fine, even if you are doing everything right on the outside, because emotional connection is what defines their experience. Not logic, not assumption, but feeling. In Buddhist understanding, attachment to outcomes can make us believe that effort alone is enough. But true connection requires presence. It requires bringing what is inside into the moment so it can be shared. And your love needs to be shared, not just carried. Because your child is not living inside your mind. They are living inside moments. Moments where they are looking at you, hoping to feel something. Something that reassures them. Something that tells them, I am loved, not just in theory, but in reality. So the next time you are with your child, ask yourself, can they feel my love right now? Not in general, not over time, but in this exact moment. Can they feel it in your attention, in your presence, in your response? Because that is what matters. Not how much you love them internally, but how clearly that love reaches them. And when it does, something changes. They stop seeking validation elsewhere. They stop questioning their worth. They stop feeling uncertain about their place in your life. They feel secure, grounded, connected. And from that place, they grow, stronger, more confident, more emotionally stable, because they are not trying to find love. They are already living in it. So do not assume your child feels your love. Show it, not once, not occasionally, but consistently, in small, real, present moments. Because love is not something they should have to figure out. It is something they should feel, without doubt, without confusion, without hesitation. And when they do, it becomes the foundation of who they are. A quiet strength that stays with them for the rest of their life. 15. It's not too late. There is a thought that quietly holds many parents back. A fear they don't always say out loud. What if I've already missed it? What if the signs were there and I didn't see them? What if there were moments my child needed me and I wasn't fully there? What if the distance that exists now is something I created without realizing? And once that thought enters, it brings guilt, regret, doubt, a feeling that maybe it's already too late to fix what has been lost. But this is where the truth matters most. Because in the teachings of Gautama Buddha, the present moment is always alive with possibility. No matter what has happened before, the now is where change begins. Not in the past, not in what you didn't do, but in what you choose to do next. Because your child is not living in your past, they are living in your presence, right now. And even if there has been distance, even if there has been silence, even if connection has weakened over time, it is not permanent. It is a pattern. And patterns can be changed. But change does not come from guilt. It does not come from overthinking the past. It comes from awareness and action in the present. It begins with something simple: seeing your child again, not as you assumed they were, not as you think they should be, but as they are right now. Because sometimes the greatest shift does not come from doing something big. It comes from noticing what has been missing and choosing to bring it back. A moment of real attention, a moment of true listening, a moment where your child feels genuinely seen. These moments may seem small, but they carry power, because when a child who has felt distant suddenly feels understood, something changes. Not instantly, not dramatically, but quietly. The walls they built begin to soften. The silence begins to open. The hesitation begins to fade. Because they are sensing something new, something different from before. And they are asking themselves, is it safe now? This is the moment where many people give up too early. They try once, twice, and expect everything to return immediately. But trust does not rebuild instantly, especially if it has been weakened over time. It rebuilds the same way it was lost, slowly, through consistent experience, through repeated moments where your child feels, this is real, this is not temporary. Because your child is not just responding to what you do once. They are watching patterns. They are observing consistency. They are waiting to see if this change is something they can trust. And this requires patience. It requires you to stay present, even when there is no immediate response. To continue showing up, even when they are still quiet. To keep listening, even when they are not fully opening yet. Because healing is not loud. It is subtle. It happens beneath the surface. And often, before you see any visible change, something is already shifting inside them. They are noticing. They are feeling the difference. They are beginning to lower their guard, but slowly, at their own pace. And your role is not to rush it, not to demand openness, not to force connection. Your role is to create the conditions for it to return, to be consistent, to be patient, to be genuinely present. Because when a child feels that consistency, they begin to believe again. They begin to trust again. They begin to open again. Not because they were told to, but because it feels safe. And this is how connection is rebuilt. Not through words, not through promises, but through experience. Through moments that feel different from the past. Moments where they are not judged, not dismissed, not overlooked, but truly seen. And each of these moments brings them closer, closer to you, closer to themselves, closer to the connection that may have once felt lost. But here is something even more important to understand. Your child does not need you to be perfect. They do not need you to erase the past. They do not need you to fix everything. They need you to be real, to be present now, to show that you are willing to understand, to show that you are willing to grow. Because when they see that, it teaches them something powerful. That change is possible. That relationships can heal. That connection can return, even after distance. And this lesson is something they will carry into their own life, into their own relationships, into how they handle mistakes and repair. Because what you are doing now is not just rebuilding your connection with them. You are teaching them how to rebuild connections in their own future, how to come back after distance, how to heal after disconnection, how to choose presence, even when it feels difficult. This is the deeper impact of your actions, not just for today, but for everything that comes after. So if you feel like you've missed something, if you feel like there has been distance, if you feel like things are not the same as they used to be, do not stay in that thought. Do not let it stop you, because the moment you become aware is the moment you can begin again. And beginning again is more powerful than holding on to regret, because your child is still here, still growing, still feeling, still waiting, in their own quiet way. for connection, for understanding, for presence, and you still have the ability to give that to them right now, in this moment, not perfectly, but honestly, and that is enough. Because sometimes, all it takes is one real moment, one moment where your child feels, you see me, you hear me, you are here. And from that moment, everything can begin to change. So it is not too late. It was never too late. It only feels that way when you are looking at the past. But when you step into the present, you realize something powerful. The connection you thought was lost is still waiting. And all it needs is for you to return to it with awareness, with patience, with presence. And when you do, you don't just reconnect. You create something stronger than before. A bond built not on assumption, but on understanding. Not on routine, but on real presence. And that kind of connection does not fade easily. It lasts because it was rebuilt with intention, right here, right now. Before you leave this video, pause for a moment. Not for me, for your child. Look at them. Really look. Not as who you think they are, but as who they feel like inside. Because they are still there, still waiting, still feeling, still hoping, in quiet ways that you will notice. In the wisdom of Gautama Buddha, awareness is the beginning of all change. And now, you see more than you did before. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for the right words. Just be there. Sit with them. Listen, without fixing. Look at them, without distraction. Because sometimes, one real moment of presence can heal what years of distance could not. Your child is still calling you. Not loudly, not clearly, but deeply. And maybe, tonight, you finally heard them.